What is up, guys? My name is BobaTalks and welcome to a brand new Gotham Season 4 Episode 9 review. Now, this episode was pretty kick-ass. We learned quite a few things, or things that I suspected, to do with like Penguin suspecting Sofia Falcone. We had the amazing Michael Cerverus do a kick-ass job this episode at Professor Pig, and we got a little bit more Jim Gordon, Harvey Bullocky stuff, and some other minor things that I'm going to get into. But if you are new to this channel and you end up enjoying this video, maybe even consider subscribing, or even turning that notification bell on to make sure you never miss out on a Gotham video, because Gotham's kicking ass this season. Now, I often find myself reiterating points because we get a lot from the trailers, and especially from this week's episode. We got the trailer from the end of last week's episode, but we also got the Red Band trailer for this week's episode that gave quite a bit away. So I feel like I've already kind of reviewed this episode through the anticipation of it. So from the beginning of the episode, we had Professor Pig feeding the poor of Gotham to ultimately just kill them so he could feed them to Gotham's elite. I get what people are saying, and I completely agree as well. You totally get this Hannibal Lecter vibe from Professor Pig, whether that's just because he's feeding people food, but also just the way he's doing his serial killing. It's just very Hannibal Lecter-y, and I miss that show. That was a really good show if any of you were fans of Hannibal. Now, there wasn't actually that much Jim and Harvey stuff compared to the previous episodes. As we're all aware, there's been a lot of drama between those two at the minute. I also love it as well as hating it, because I love Harvey, I love Jim. I don't like to see this conflict between them. But in this episode, Harvey was packing his stuff up because he was going to go on leave, and he kind of brought up the season 1 moment of where Jim, you know, could have killed Penguin and a lot of people would have been saved in Gotham, because in theory Falcone would still be running things, but Jim, in the right way as well, was saying how, you know, that's not the right thing to do, and Harvey says, well, I beg to differ, really. And I kind of liked hearing that. It made me think for a minute, you know, what if Jim actually did do what Harvey told him to do? Because Harvey actually recommended that he actually took that course of action, if you think about that. Before Jim, Harvey was one of the better cops, but it was still quite a bent cop. So if it wasn't for Jim's involvement in his life, he would not be the man he is today, even though he's suffering a little bit at the minute. But yeah, imagine if Jim did what any other GCPD cop probably would have done, because as we know, GCPD, you know, in Gotham City, the cops aren't exactly the most law-abiding, even though they're cops. The whole of Gotham would have been so different. Think about how much of the show has revolved around Penguin, and imagine how different things would have been if Falcone was still ruling Gotham. Yes, Falcone is quite the criminal and mobster himself, but he did things fairly, which we've had very shoved in our face throughout this season. But regardless, that was just a thing I liked in this episode, how they kind of made me think about how things could have been so different from back in season 1 if Jim had just killed Penguin. Now, quite early on in the episode, we found out that Oswald is so determined to find out who promoted, or who got the mayor to promote Jim to captain. And it did make my suspicions correct from the previous episode, because if you remember from the end of last episode, Penguin was talking to Martine about friendship and how it can be deceiving, and then he was looking at Sofia Falcone getting her car, and that really heavily insinuated that he was suspicious of her. But then the trailer came out for this week's episode, and I was like, well, he still seems to be quite buddy-buddy with her. But that is actually the case. He suspected her, but he still really wanted her. And there was this line in this episode that really kind of made me like that. I think the line came from the discussion of when Penguin was talking about how the mayor is now conveniently gone missing after he basically promoted Jim to the captain of the GCPD, but who put him up to that? And obviously this whole subject was revolving if Sofia Falcone was the person who did that. But at the same time, the line was, you do realize she's my only friend, right? And that kind of brought everything together for me, whether it be from the end of last episode to when I saw the trailer, and I was thinking, is Penguin suspicious of her, or yet why is he still quite close to her? It turned out in this episode that yes, Penguin was very much so suspicious of Sofia Falcone, but she is his only friend. I guess he did actually find it extremely hard to be suspecting of her, as well as, you know, really liking her, because she's the first person in a long time who just showed him a bit of love. And I know a lot of people in the comment section have been getting confused, because they were like, is Penguin gay, or is he straight, or is he bi? I didn't mean that when I said Penguin was, you know, wanting love in one of my previous breakdowns. It's just more that Penguin wants a family and a mother's love even, or just someone that he can have as a friend. I really liked the scenes between Martine and Penguin this episode. If you think about it, Penguin couldn't tolerate kids, but he really got attached to Martine because throughout this episode he was willing to do practically anything to stop Martine from being hurt. But going back to that conversation between him and Martine about suspecting Sofia, I felt like Martine actually had some very good acting chops this episode. I don't know the name of the actor, but when Penguin wanted him to be his eyes and ears and he was agreeing to it, he was getting really upset. I think there was even a tear rolling down his face because I felt like he wanted to do right by Penguin, but he was also upset that he's being asked to spy on a person who's been looking after him, a person who gave him a home, the person who gave him an orphanage. So it was, you know, he really likes Penguin, and he even wrote on his pen and paper, like, you know, you're my friend now and stuff like that. But his friend is also asking him to spy on his other friend. So that must have been quite difficult for that character if you think about it. But with the whole relationship of Martine and Penguin stemming from the fact of friendship potentially being deceiving, I think Martine went through with it because Penguin was just like, I worry that Sofia is only pretending to be my friend. So obviously Martine was like, you know, that can't happen, so I guess I'll do this for you. So I really like that this episode. I just love Penguin moments, and I guess just scenes with Martine and Penguin is just something so different to what we normally see from Penguin. It was a delight to see. Now let's talk a bit about Alfred and Bruce this episode, and let's just all agree that Bruce is being an absolute dick at the minute. In this episode, it marked the day that Bruce and his father would have gone on top of that hill and placed their engraved rocks, and obviously Bruce is acting out in the minute for multiple reasons, and Alfred is actually very understanding of that. And to be honest, I've tried to put it across to everyone and how I'm very understanding of that, but I don't want to see too much of this. But also I feel like it is crucial because we can't pretend that Bruce hasn't been through a lot, and that wouldn't mess you up also when you're such a young man. As annoying as some of you may find this and want to get on with the Bruce story and etc, it is very important for his character development to go through stuff like this, to begin his playboy persona, but also learn how to get through stuff like this. Stuff like Alex might happen again, and Bruce will one day, as we all know, will lose people and get hurt again and again, and he has to deal with it. So dealing with it at this age is just wild enough as it is, and I really actually kind of like, as much as I find it annoying, what is going on in this episode. But there was a couple of moments that particularly highlighted it for me. One was when Alfred was telling the story of how he met Bruce's father. I love the background between that, you know, how Alfred left the army and he was lost, and the whole point of that story morally was how Bruce is lost and he just wants to help Bruce, and he's been lost himself, but his father ended up helping him because post-army he was into drugs, alcohol, he was, you know, just sleeping on the streets at night. He woke up bloody. He even doesn't know why he ended up bloody, but he goes to the police station to turn himself in for whatever happened that night. But that's when he met Bruce's father, Thomas Wayne. His friendship saved Alfred and gave his life purpose, and he obviously became close to the family from there on out, and he does see himself as Bruce's father. But that is when the coldest line came from Bruce. I mean, holy shit. Not only did he drive off and leave Alfred to walk all the way home, he delivered the most cold insult you could probably give somebody who is effectively your father now, by saying something like, you can stop trying to be my father and you could be my butler, so clear this place up. When that happened, it kind of broke my heart looking at Alfred, because he's understanding what's going on with Bruce, but still stuff like that must be very tough to take. And as annoying as this stuff is, as I've already said in this review, it's important, guys. It's important that Bruce is going through this stuff, and I think it is going to happen for a couple more episodes yet, looking through the synopsis for the next couple of episodes. But to be honest, it's almost worse if they just only gave this one episode and then he was magically fine again. It's kind of a good arc if you think about it. Now let's go back to Professor Pig and the orphanage fundraiser. I feel like I've already spoke about this all before in my breakdowns for the trailer and the Red Band trailer, but for those of you who are just wanting to hear it again, or just to hear what I thought of the full scenes, it was very good. Michael Cerveris was brilliant. I loved the moment where he was singing. I've also briefly spoke about how Professor Pig is such a theatrical villain, just like alongside how the Joker is and the Riddler is. I love Batman's rogues gallery like that. He has the quality class villains. Michael Cerveris can sing well, and if you're wondering why, because he has actually sung in quite a few other things before. So that moment was fantastic. I love how protective Penguin was of Sofia and Martine during that whole meal. And I think it's safe to say that Professor Pig didn't necessarily view Jim Gordon as his kindred spirit anymore, because he thought he was doing what Jim was doing, but in a very psychopath way by trying to clean up the city of the rot and the crime that is in it. So Pig was trying to kill Jim, but Jim obviously won. It was a pretty kick-ass fight, leading up to Pig getting his ass handed to him and ending up going off in the police wagon. Whether that be Arkham Asylum, which I'm pretty sure it will be, or another place, I'm willing to bet it is Arkham. I want to mention again as well how I love the Captain Gordon moments, whether it be where he was talking to the press the first time round about how he would capture the Pig, and then again when he had captured Professor Pig, he spoke to the press again, and they actually ended up saying thank you. A really nice thing to add into the episode, because the reason why I love this so much is because we see the Jim Gordon, well, I personally see the Jim Gordon that I see in the comics when Bruce is going around, and Jim is obviously the commissioner by then in most stories, and he's quite often addressing the press and all the reporters about what the heck is going on, whether it be the Joker or Professor Pig or the Riddler in full-blown Batman Gotham. So I just love how all this promotion and addressing the press stuff foreshadows his future commissionership, and he is taking good steps towards that by becoming this police captain. And the last thing I want to talk about is going back to Penguin and Sofia. I feel like they teased it back and forth. Is Penguin got to actually go insane at Sofia, because they were kind of talking out in the open initially about how it was actually Sofia who got Jim Gordon promoted. And I thought, okay, so is everything out in the open now? Because Penguin almost basically forgave her and said, you know, he could kill her for what she did behind his back, but, you know, it seemed things were going to kind of be okay from there on out, because Penguin learned that she had been doing some things, and maybe that is what all this suspicion was about from him, but maybe now he could put it all to rest. And then good old little Martine, the eyes and ears of the Penguin, saw the policeman kissing Sofia. And that is what absolutely triggered Penguin. And at first I was a little confused as to why he was so triggered about Sofia kind of being with Jim, because everything was kind of out in the open, and she even said, well, pick someone else then, because Penguin was like, but Jim Gordon cannot be captain, and that's because Penguin full well knows that he's a bloody excellent cop, and the higher up he gets, the more he will have a lot of trouble on his hands from the GCPD. But Penguin did say to Sofia, don't ever betray me again. So maybe he sees it as a bit of a betrayal, the fact that, you know, after this conversation that, you know, Sofia is still going for Jim. So overall, as I think it is quite an extreme reaction, I guess because Penguin abandoned the licenses, he forgave Sofia, mainly because of what she did for Martine, because Martine all of a sudden means quite a lot to Penguin, so it really made him think, you know what, Sofia still can be forgiven, can be my friend, and I guess just it blew it off the lid, knowing that she's still going after Jim, somebody who he feels like is an extreme threat, obviously, because Jim is quite the threat. Penguin's abandoned his licenses, so he's already molding to what Sofia wants, and I guess this was just the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of his true suspicions ever since the beginning of this season, of him really thinking that she is out to destroy Penguin. And mainly the cherry on top being that she said Jim Gordon is less than nothing to me. She outright lied to him, and that is not what friends really do. But that is all I've got to say about this episode, guys. But if you feel like I missed anything out, let's talk about it in the comment section below, because that is what it's for, and you guys are amazing at discussing and speculating on Gotham, so go ahead and do that, and I'll be right down there along with you, because I do try and reply to most comments. Other than that, guys, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, as it really does show your support for my channel. And if you're new to this channel, maybe even consider subscribing and join the BobaTalks family, because that way you'll never miss out on a Gotham video and any other DC TV content. If you're already a part of this channel and you want to stay a little bit more up to date with me personally, you can do so by following me on social media. The link should be popping up on the screen around here or in the description below. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be after this in a few hours, because it'll be my Gotham trailer breakdown, and yeah.